Hey everybody, what is going on? Hope you guys are doing well right now. And I want to talk about kind of a more casual Seahawks related topic for this video. I want to talk a little bit about something that it's not really a pressing issue. It doesn't have anything to do with the current team or this upcoming season, but I think about these things, and I think a lot of you guys do too. So I want to talk about next year's Hall of Fame class, the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2027, because we've got a pretty big one coming up here for the Seattle Seahawks. And I think this is something that we should explore a little bit. And let's make sure that we try to get behind the guy that we're ultimately trying to push in here. So the 2026 Hall of Fame class for the players that got in, guys like Larry Fitzgerald and Drew Brees and Luke Kuechly, really good class. But let's take a look at this one right here. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. Some good players here, some players that definitely feel like they deserve to make the Hall of Fame, some very notable players, some iconic players of their era. And one of them is a Seattle Seahawk legend and somebody that I hope when this is over, even if it's not first ballot, and I don't know if it will be or not, I hope they get in. And when you think about the Legion of Boom era Seahawks, a team that looked about as stacked as you can be, roster-wise, during their Super Bowl years, as it turns out, there are not gonna be that many Hall of Famers from that era of Seahawks football, it feels like now. So, when we have an opportunity to get one, I hope we can make it happen. And you take a look at this list, right there, right? Richard Sherman. So, Richard Sherman, look, I know we've had our differences. I know he ended his career on other teams. I know that he went to a division rival and kind of said some stuff that we probably didn't appreciate and did some stuff we would rather him have not done. But regardless, Richard Sherman is still a Seahawk legend. And when the ballots come in, I'm hoping that he can represent this team as a Hall of Famer next year when they announce that class. And you take a look at this class, it's good. The first-time eligible list is strong. And some of these names I feel like are just kind of here to be here. Like, there are some guys here that I don't think will ever get in, and I don't think they have a real argument for it. But you look at the top here especially, there are some guys who are gonna get in, and I imagine there's at least a couple guys here that are definitely gonna be first ballot guys. But I want Richard Sherman in there, and I think we all should as well. Rob Gronkowski is in the conversation for best tight end in NFL history. He's got to get in, and I imagine he's a first ballot guy. Adrian Peterson is the defining running back of his era and won an MVP, so he's got to get there. I think first ballot as well. Ben Roethlisberger, he has to get in eventually, I think. I don't know if he'll get in first ballot, but I'm pretty confident he gets in at some point. So that's three. That's three guys that I'm pretty confident get in, and two of them I'm almost positive get in first ballot. Now, Cam Newton, I mean, knock the place down if he gets in. Antonio Brown, he should get in as a player. Like, there are like 3 or 4 wide receivers in NFL history better than AB, but at this point he probably won't because of the other stuff. And everyone else on this list, I don't see it. Maybe Alex Mack, but I don't feel like he was a household name. Maybe Gerald McCoy. I don't know. The bottom half of the list, I don't totally get. All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the #1 sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks, where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams, where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer. Best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today, and remember to always gamble responsibly. So it feels like there's a pretty clear divide on this list where the top 3 guys are going to get in, and the guys down here, these 7 guys, don't really have much of a chance. And Richard Sherman is kind of right on the line. So let's talk about Richard Sherman here. This is a guy who kind of came out of nowhere. He was a 5th-round pick. He was originally a wide receiver, and he ended up making 5 Pro Bowls. 3 times he was first-team All-Pro. 2 times he was second-team All-Pro. He had 2 years where his approximate value was over 20. He had a year where he led the league in passes defended. He had 2 straight years of 8 interceptions. And big picture this, the 2 defining cornerbacks of the era of Richard Sherman were Sherman and Darrelle Revis. So those 2 guys were the top dogs. And Revis is in the Hall of Fame. Now, look, Revis probably ended up having a better career, right? His numbers in some areas are better. In other areas, they're a little bit worse. But he had more All-Pro teams. He made the All-Pro first team 4 times. He made more Pro Bowls. They both have 1 Super Bowl, actually. So I guess that wouldn't be a big consideration here. But Revis was probably a little bit of a better player than Sherman and had a little bit of a better career. But those 2 guys defined the cornerback position for that era. And Richard Sherman was one of the defining players and probably the biggest, most well-known voice of a team that led the NFL in scoring defense 4 straight years, which has not been done ever in the Super Bowl era before the Legion of Boom did it. And he got a Super Bowl out of that. He played in another Super Bowl. He got votes for Defensive Player of the Year one time. And then he redefined his career in San Francisco at 31 years old. He had one of the better seasons of his career, made the Pro Bowl again, All-Pro second team, and was able to actually close his career out pretty strongly, respectably. He didn't just go out when he had that injury with the Seahawks in 2017. So this is a Hall of Fame career in my mind, especially in the modern era where it is really hard to play cornerback. It is really hard to man up against these receivers and defend them in a way that the NFL referees will approve of. So the fact that he was able to play at this level in this era where passing stats went absolutely crazy, the fact that he was, I don't want to say the best player because I don't believe that he was, but he was one of the best players on the defense that had the performance that they did in Super Bowl 48. This guy needs to be in the Hall of Fame. So when the time comes around, I'm going to be pushing pretty hard for Richard Sherman getting in as a first-time eligible player. And I believe, not just because I want him to because he's a legendary Seahawk, but I believe he deserves it because of his level of play. Again, Darrelle Revis was the top corner of his era, but I think Sherman's number 2, and I think both guys are clearly the defining players at that position. And beyond that, think about this a little bit more big picture. The Legion of Boom era Seahawks, the Pete Carroll Seahawks, how many Hall of Famers are they going to have? Because we've already kind of lost Earl Thomas. Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen now. And Earl, to me, was the best player on that defense. He just, too much stuff happened. I don't think he'll ever get in now. His career ended pretty weakly anyway, so it's understandable why it ended, why he's not going to get in on some level. But I think he's out. At this point, I'm not super optimistic about Marshawn Lynch getting in. And I'm not super optimistic about Russell Wilson getting in 5 years. I feel like that could go one way or the other, and I don't have a great feel for it. And, I mean, who else? Who else from that Seahawk team is making the Hall of Fame? You've probably got Bobby Wagner. He'll get in. I gotta believe. So you're good there. You've got Bobby Wagner. Nice. And who else? Because Cam's never going to get in. Michael Bennett's not getting in. Cliff Avrill's not getting in. Who else are we talking about here? It could be a situation where you've only got 2 Hall of Famers for that legendary Seahawks team that won our first Super Bowl, and that doesn't feel right. And I think that what we managed to do during that era, I know we only won the one Super Bowl, but it's hard to win multiple Super Bowls in a short period of time in the modern NFL anyway. And to me, if Bobby Wagner and Richard Sherman and maybe eventually Russell Wilson, and of course Pete Carroll, he'll get in eventually. If those are the guys who end up getting in, then that's respectable. It's still a little bit disappointing because there are other guys on that team who felt like they were headed that way and it just didn't pan out. But let's get Sherman in, right? And Sherman, he's still a public figure, right? He's still a figure in the NFL world because he does that work for NFL Network. So that probably helps as well. That's a part of the package when you're looking at his resume, I think. And yeah, what I'm trying to say is let's make this happen. Let's make sure he doesn't get left to the side here. And 10 years from now, we're thinking about that great Legion of Boom Seahawks team, and we only got one Hall of Famer there. That wouldn't feel right. Even if it's Bobby Wagner, and at this point, he's the guy who probably deserves to get in more than anybody else. But if it's only Bobby Wagner and Pete Carroll, and I guess John Schneider eventually gets in too, I don't know. That's I'm not going to feel great about that. All right, let's make it happen, people. Richard Sherman, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully, he'll have the good sense to go in as a Seahawk. If he goes in as a 49er, I might have a little bit of beef there, but I think he knows better. I would hope he knows better. All right, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Everyone have a good rest of your day. Maybe another video later, maybe not. We will see, and see you later.